Welcome into K-State Online. I am Mason Voth. That is Drew Galloway, here to start the week with the recruiting update that has been promised to you. And we've got a lot that we can get into with it. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody that you can go to cats2ireland.com. If you're still trying to figure out how to get to Ireland next year and where you want your tickets and how you want to do everything else, the best way to do all that is just to go to cats2ireland.com. It's all going to be in front of you. And then that way you can experience the trip of a lifetime with yourself and all of your K-State friends and family to see the Wildcats take on the Cyclones in the 2025 Aer Lingus College Football Classic in Dublin, Ireland. Visit cats2ireland.com for information on official travel and hospitality packages. That's cats, the number 2, Ireland.com. I should be getting a passport at some point in the mail in the next couple of weeks, I would imagine. So I will be able to legally attend this game, not just find my way to get over there somehow. Yeah. I think it's a lot harder to maybe sneak into a country if air travel has to be involved. So I probably am either going to be there or I won't be if this passport doesn't show up. I think it's supposed to, though.
Our fun fact today is a pretty basic one. But, Ireland famous for castles.
Mm-hmm.
There are 30,000 castles in Ireland.
Wow, the land of castles. Any of them still like in use by people, or most of them just like?
I don't think so. I think most are just like kind of just there now.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good one to know. So lots of castles for people to see if you make it over to Ireland to see K-State and Iowa State. So in this recruiting update today, we got a lot to kind of get into. We got 2 commitments to break down for people. We have a high school recruiting battle that did not go K-State's way for now. That will be kind of the precursor to a lot of the conversation there. And then where K-State is looking in the transfer portal as it currently stands as we sit here at noon on Monday. So let's start with the first commit that K-State got. I believe this one happened while I was doing last-minute snowstorm shopping Friday afternoon at Walmart. Yeah, I know. I had to go to Walmart because, that was – but my wife saw some Valentine's pajamas that our daughter just had to have on the Walmart website. So I was there getting milk and pajamas. Gabe Irvin, a running back, added to K-State's transfer class. Got a year left, played his first 4 years at Nebraska. A bigger back than what K-State has currently on the roster. What do you make of the Gabe Irvin addition? Because this kind of feels like the Taquan Roberson thing last year where you go, oh, K-State was looking for a running back, and here they get one that played in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where I would start, is that I know that people have said, like, why do you think that this is a luxury ad? Because I think that there are a lot of younger guys that K-State has in the running back room that could play a factor if they didn't add Gabe Irvin. But adding Gabe Irvin, it gives you an older guy. He might be the only senior running back on the roster next season if LeJames White elects to either enter the transfer portal or just be done with college football. With walk-ons now getting down to 105, it's just hard to tell what's going to happen there. But you look at Gabe Irvin, and like you said, he is a different running back than K-State has right now because he is 6'1", 220. Is a really physical, powerful runner. And I think that the running back room, I think somebody kind of summed it up on the board of it just seems kind of buttoned up now. Like there is no real like hesitations on if somebody were to get injured. Because you look at Gabe Irvin, not a lot of stats in production, but if you dig a little bit deeper, he's had some injury issues. But the thing that really stood out to me was I know that Nebraska's running back situation hasn't been great the last handful of years, but Gabe Irvin was the starter there twice. He started in 2021, was the first true freshman running back to start a season opener at Nebraska, and then was the starting running back again in 2023. And he just happened to get hurt in both 2021 and 2023. So you'd like him to stay a little bit more healthy. And I think that this is probably an even better ad than a Taquan Roberson was last year. Because this is our guy that was a Power 4 starter twice in his career before injuries derailed how his career has gone, and now is at K-State. So it's a good depth ad and a lot of, I would say, a little bit of a luxury ad because I think that there are guys like Montrell Elston and Davon Rice and even JV Price that could come in next year and be able to really take the load if like a Dylan Edwards or Joe Jackson was to go down for a game or two. But now that you have Gabe Irvin, you're like, okay, now we don't really have to rely on these younger guys, and we can go to somebody with more experience.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the size aspect of it. Obviously, he's bigger than Dylan Edwards. Joe Jackson clocks in at 6'2", 200. So this is Gabe Irvin being about 20 pounds heavier than that. And I think there's a situation where you still need to have maybe one guy back there that when you think, hey, we need this little push here and a guy to pop some dudes, we got to hand it to him. And that's where, I mean, last year there was a lot of criticism at times, myself included, that K-State was turning around and giving the ball to Dylan Edwards on 3rd and 4th and short. And it's like, DJ Giddens is right there, if you need to get DJ Giddens a break somewhere, do it on 1st or 2nd down, but make sure you have your big back that is not afraid to run through and pass guys available there. So that's another aspect of this that I wonder if that could be the usage for Irvin next year. And it's not like he's a full-blown traditional power back. Like he's not, he's not Fagan, the running back for Illinois that has like 7 carries for 8 yards in a game, but it's like those 8 yards were valuable that he's going to pop. But I do think that might be one of the ways that K-State could squeeze some juice out of this. And like you're saying, not bad to have depth with experience. And also, fun fact for you on Gabe Irvin, this is a guy that's actually taken handoffs and caught passes from Adrian Martinez.
Oh, there you
and
go.
It feels like Adrian Martinez has been out of this place for a long time. But yeah, this is one of those that if you're going to have the room, if you're K-State, and obviously they think they are, there's no reason to say no to a guy like this, and you can fill out the roster a little better, and you never know when it's going to have an impact on your ability to win a game, just like what happened with Taquan Roberson.
Another thing with Gabe Irvin that gives K-State some flexibility is we've been hearing more, and we saw it in the bowl game, of Dylan Edwards being split out wide a little bit more, and they had Joe Jackson in the backfield. Well, now you can split them out wide and have Joe Jackson or Gabe Irvin in the backfield. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility. That was a great Gabe Irvin fun fact. I'll throw in a Gabe Irvin fun fact if we're just going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
High school teammates with VJ Payne.
How about that?
Both
all right.
High school alums.
Well, we're getting it all over the place. A lot of Georgia guys starting to populate on the roster for K-State as well. All right, one other transfer commitment has taken place since we've been here, and this is one that from the start of the portal opening to the point of getting the commitment, there's been ups and downs to it. It's kind of been all over the place. Not anywhere near as hectic and topsy-turvy as the Reggie Stubblefield recruitment a couple of years ago, but it does feel like there have been times where it's like K-State's going to be all in on Fortenberry. Oh, no, forget about it. It's over. And then there's life again. And all of a sudden that life came in a big way for K-State as they are able to land a Maran Fortenberry from South Alabama. It comes at a position of need at corner. The other exciting part about this is that this guy is a freshman, played pretty well, and that means he's got 3 years of eligibility remaining when K-State gets him, and we know that they've had some pretty good success with transfers in the secondary. So what do you know about a Maran Fortenberry?
Yeah, I'll just start with the years remaining. Look at K-State's roster right now. They don't technically need a younger corner, and still went after Fortenberry with an all-out pursuit. And I think that just shows how much that they really like him, because now that sophomore class is a little bit crowded. Zayshawn Rich, Donovan McIntosh, and Kenigel Thomas is going to be a redshirt freshman, but could have been a true, or I guess he'll be a redshirt sophomore because he should have been a junior next season if he would have been healthy. So you kind of look at that sophomore class, and it looks like it's going to be a very, very good one. And there's going to be a lot of competition, and that's why when they take somebody like Fortenberry who has 3 years left, that that they must have really, really liked him. And you look at the competition level at South Alabama, not great, but his best game of the year probably came against LSU. And I think that's something that's really exciting. And he is a little bit bigger for a corner. I believe he's like 6 foot around there. That's about the average height of an NFL cornerback, and fills a position of need, because I think that if you're rolling into next season just with Justice James, Donovan McIntosh, Zayshawn Rich, and then Kenigel Thomas, you're probably feeling a little bit uneasy still. But now you have all of those guys back and Fortenberry. And I think that you will get a lot of good competition, and I'm really, really intrigued about the cornerback battle because I've heard good things about Connor Thomas. We expect Zayshawn Rich to take a huge leap forward, and I think that he can really build on the Rate Bowl where he was probably K-State's best defender, in all honesty.
Yeah.
And then Donovan McIntosh played really, really well in the Rate Bowl, and Justice James is solid. So you look at all of those guys coming in, and it's going to be a pretty contested battle for who ends up being the starting corners. But I think that Fortenberry and Rich might be the leaders in the clubhouse right now.
Yeah, you talk about building off of the Rate Bowl. If you're looking at guys that got at least 20 snaps in the game, only 2 were graded out better on PFF than Zayshawn Rich, and that was Damian Ilalio and Austin Moore. And then the other guy that came up just shy of being included that was slightly graded out higher than Rich was Donovan McIntosh, but he only played 19 snaps. So, there's a lot to build off of, and now you add another guy into the room that you think might provide something. And I think this is an exciting one to get. This one feels big for K-State. And just like we talked about so much with basketball in the portal, having the years remaining on a certain guy is such a big deal. And if they leave, so what, they leave, and it's not a huge deal because typically if a guy transfers in and then leaves, you're not heartbroken about it because he probably wasn't doing anything for you. But most of these guys that they transfer in and they're doing something, they are still going to be here, and you can kind of use that to your advantage. So this feels like a good one for K-State to have, and we'll see how it ends up looking on the field next year, and probably for K-State over the next 3.
Yeah, I think that it's one of K-State's bigger commits right now in the transfer portal, just with how big of a deal corner was, and losing both your starters, even though Keenan Garber, I think it's fair to say, was pretty disappointing this season. But losing both, I don't think K-State really imagined coming into the season. But Jacob Parrish was just that good that he's going to be going to the NFL. But now you're really thinking all 3 of those guys, or 4 of them being sophomores, and you're really excited about all of them. I think that the cream will rise to the top, and somebody will end up getting a lot of playing time and being really, really good. And I wouldn't be surprised if you hear about one of these 4 sophomores taking like a huge, huge leap.
Yeah. All right, let's move on now. Guys that are transfers that K-State doesn't have yet. There are 2 in particular that one seems like the opportunity may have passed, and the other, the opportunity may be coming right to their doorstep. We'll start with Malik Benson, who K-State has had multiple attempts or opportunities with. But most people know that the path now. He's from Lansing, went to Hutch JUCO, then transferred to Alabama, was the number 1 JUCO player in that class, was there for a year, then went to Florida State, and now has 1 year left and is looking for a new home again. Seemed like K-State was going to be one of the significant players here, but the 2 teams that they're going head-to-head with are really no easy level of competition in the transfer portal for a guy. So what can you tell everybody about Malik Benson?
Yeah, I would say K-State has been a major player for Malik Benson. This is the 4th time K-State has recruited him. Because you got to think back. K-State was like the only school to pull the trigger on him out of high school. And we're working really hard to get him to qualify and get into K-State, but it ended up not happening. And he went to Hutch JUCO. And then K-State recruited him out of Hutch JUCO, and he went to Alabama. And then they recruited him after he left Alabama. Now they're recruiting him after he left Florida State. But it looks like K-State's going to come up 0 for 4 in the Malik Benson sweepstakes. It looks like Oregon's probably going to end up landing him. I think that there's just something about the bigger brand name schools in Benson, because you hear some of the things that have came out of his camp and what we've heard from the transfer portal the last 2 years about him wanting to go closer to home, and they even said like there was some reports and sources that said that being closer to home was an even bigger thing in this portal recruitment compared to the other ones. And then he ends up going to Oregon and Florida State, which are not exactly, close to Lansing, Kansas. So I think that that's just a little bit of bad luck, and the brand name schools ended up winning out again for Malik Benson. So we'll see where that goes, because you take a look at some of the Oregon fans, and I don't think that the fans really want Malik Benson at all at Oregon.
Yeah, and the staff. I mean, Oregon, they're going through it right now in recruiting. They're trying to, I think, find some footing, and obviously they're disrupted by how things went in their Rose Bowl against Ohio State. But yeah, this is one that I think, as it seems like it's shifting, and that Oregon kind of becomes the favorite here. Malik Benson probably sliding back into the same shoe that got him to Alabama and Florida State. And, for his sake, you hope that third time's the charm. But like what you were saying there, where, oh, no, this is going to be about coming closer to home now. And obviously K-State wanting him out of high school. You think this seems like just doing the same thing over again and probably going to get the same result. So we'll see what Malik Benson looks like next year if he's not playing at K-State, if it ends up being Oregon, who seems to be the front runner now. But does seem like K-State might be missing out on this opportunity once again, which we know K-State's still trying to find receivers if they can find the right ones, and they obviously like Malik Benson and thought that he was. So one other guy that might have the opportunity to come closer to home in the transfer portal after going to a big-name school in the SEC, Jon Ross, who think back to last year, Drew, last season. I forget which game it was after, but we were doing one of our instant reactions after the game, and we were on the field when Jon Ross came to do kind of his photo shoot or whatever down there. And at that time and the days leading up to it, it felt like K-State had some serious momentum for a guy that was a 4-star in last year's recruiting class, until at the last minute, Alabama came swooping in, and then you kind of went, oh, yep, there goes the opportunity. But now he's in the transfer portal, 4 years of eligibility left. And what can you tell us about the Kansas City product and the opportunity that K-State might have here?
Yeah, it literally kind of was a bad luck situation with K-State and Jon Ross the first time around, because I think K-State was probably going to get Jon Ross if Alabama didn't offer. I think it was the day before he took his official visit to K-State. So they were very familiar with him, obviously. And then you kind of factor in that he didn't play much. I think he only played in one game, and it came against Mercer at the end of the season for Alabama this year. And just with how everything went down at Alabama this year, kind of seems like they're a little bit of a mess with some of Nick Saban's holdovers and then bringing in Kalen DeBoer's new guys. So he looks to transfer. And it's been relatively quiet outside of kind of hearing that if it was down to like what Ross and his family would want, that K-State would probably be the pick. So now K-State's showing some interest in him again. And I think that I'm pretty confident in saying that Jon Ross will probably commit to K-State based on kind of what we've heard around this recruitment so far. And I think that it's an intriguing addition because he brings a little bit of versatility like that. That's why we have edge down there instead of saying like defensive end. Because if you really look into how Alabama wanted to use them, it was very similar to how K-State would use somebody as a Sam linebacker. So if he can kind of develop into that role, or can he be a defensive end, we'll kind of see on that. But he kind of reminds me a little bit of like what they wanted Khalid Duke to be at the Sam spot. And I think that you can really pitch that. And I think that if you pitch that well, you probably don't run into issues with the younger defensive ends on like, why are you bringing in another one when they have a lot of younger talent there? Because he honestly just would bring a fourth defensive end on the field in pass rushing situations.
Yeah, it's an intriguing addition. And also, you're right. It is funny how I know other people have made this comment before, how edge is now a term that gets the all caps treatment, even though it's a word and not, an abbreviation like defensive end or something. But it is kind of funny how that works out. But that's how you have to kind of establish guys now. And I think this would be an exciting one for K-State to, get a guy that just last year was a top 150 player in the country and top 20 at his position and everything that goes with that. But to what you're saying, the snaps he played against Mercer this year came at linebacker. So this is one to watch for K-State and to see if the Wildcats can wrap this one up, because what people are probably really starting to get a grasp of is in the transfer portal, if you don't get things locked down quick, there aren't a lot of guys that are like Marquavius Moss where they'll take that other visit and, they'll have some days after and still say, that's where I want to be. It's a lot of, you got to get it done quickly. And if you don't, and they're walking out the door and they're probably picking somebody else, like the Malik Benson thing, some of the others. So that's something to keep in mind. And we'll see if this ends up being a speedy moving recruitment for Jon Ross, or if K-State's going to be on the edge of their seat for this one too. One that K-State, I don't think, was on the edge of their seat for when it became official in the high school recruiting world was last week. Manhattan High recruit in the 2026 class, James Dunnigan Jr., committed to KU. Right now, the number 3 player in Kansas. I think a lot of people are of the belief that that is going to change when teams start to update the rankings more, that he probably ends up being the top player in the state. What do you make of K-State missing on getting J.J. Dunnigan?
I'm kind of the belief that we'll see on where this goes. I think that there was a little bit of wanting to do it at the Under Armour All-American game for J.J. Dunnigan.
Which this was the first or second year that they're letting juniors play in that now, right?
Yeah, yes, which was very confusing when I saw that at first too.
This is when, and this is not a referendum on Dunnigan or any of the juniors that went. Like, they should do it if they have the opportunity. But you feel like these games are kind of starting to outstay their welcome, kind of like bowl games. But it's like if you're having to get juniors to come play in it now because you probably have a lot of seniors that are already joining their college teams or whatever else, it's probably just time to can these suckers.
But you kind of get the feeling that he wanted to do it at the Under Armour All-American game. The vibe that I think just about everybody has gotten is that he's still going to continue to take visits to other schools, even though he's still committed to KU. So does being first in this really give you an advantage? To be honest with you, I'd probably say no. And I think that all 4 teams that were involved, Stanford, Nebraska, KU, K-State, didn't really feel comfortable about where they were at until about a day before. So you also kind of dig into that and you're like, is this really going to stick? I don't know. But what I've said is I don't think that Dunnigan is even close to being done getting offers. So I think that that's another one where kind of being first might not help you in the end, because I think that this spring and summer, he's probably somebody that's due to really blow up. And I think that he should be probably close to a 4-star, if not a 4-star already, and the number 1 player in the state of Kansas. So you kind of take all of that into account, and it is a nice recruiting win for KU right now. But you don't get anything if they commit in January and then leave before next December. And I think that that's kind of where everybody is at, because, I mean, even On3's Chad Simmons was kind of implied that Dunnigan isn't done taking visits. So it's kind of okay, it happens now. Now you have 11 months until he signs.
Yeah, it's weird because if you're KU, like, there's 2 sides of this where you go, well, if the kid's going to commit somewhere right now, we'd rather it be us than somebody else. But also, I think there's more stress on KU now for the next year in trying to make sure that you keep this locked down, whereas everybody else is coming in and they're just taking swings, and if they swing and miss, it doesn't matter. Like, he's not yours right now, so who cares? But for KU, they have to play both sides of this, and that makes it tough. So I think, like you said, DY said it, Chad Simmons, everybody that's followed this thing is going to keep an eye on it for the next year, just to see where things end up. I mean, I know a lot of people have compared it to the Dylan Edwards situation. Is that a fair comp, or is this one even different than that?
I think it's even different than that, because Dylan Edwards still committed in June and waited until June. Like, this is a whole 11 months out thing. So I'm really intrigued to see where this goes. Like, I would put a little bit of money on Dunnigan even visiting K-State while he's committed to KU. So you kind of look at that, like, there is something, and it is a good recruiting win for KU right now. But again, it's if you can't get him signed, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and the Dylan Edwards thing too. Maybe this is revisionist history, but this is the way that I see it. I think a lot of people are like, oh, he commit, decommit, get all this. I think the K-State decommitment was real to go to Notre Dame, and who knows if maybe he's still at Notre Dame if he ends up there instead of Colorado. I think the decommitment then to go to Colorado, like just unforeseen circumstances there. I don't think Dylan Edwards is leaving his Notre Dame commitment if Deion Sanders doesn't get the job at Colorado. So a little different there.
Jackson State was in his Final Four.
And what you kind of talk about with, the timing of this, Dylan Edwards committed in the summer to K-State, and then a few months later, he decommitted from Notre Dame. So, that was a much speedier process there. And this one is you've got more time than the Dylan Edwards recruitment had, and he committed to 3 schools during that period. And I don't know that it ends up being 3 schools get the commitment from Dunnigan, but a lot of people seem to think that even if there isn't 2 schools that get a commitment here, KU is going to be on a wild ride with this recruitment. So it's something to keep an eye on, and I'm sure that we'll talk about it at some other point in a recruiting update down the road. But that will do it for us today. We will be back throughout the rest of the week if something goes off with K-State in the transfer portal, and give you all the up-to-the-date information on that. Hopefully some breakdowns this week. If everything goes the way that K-State wants it to, we'll have those for you. And then also tomorrow, K-State, Oklahoma State preview right here on KSO. So for Drew Galloway, I'm Mason Voth. Thank you for watching and listening. We are out of here, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.